Bonjour, je suis Serge Alou du secrétariat de Cities Alliance. Je vous remercie pour ces présentations qui sont thought-provoking, comme on dit en anglais. J'aurais deux questions au panel. La première, c'est, il me semble qu'il y a, dans vos propos, une assimilation d'un côté la recherche et de l'autre les données et l'information. Il me semble que la recherche, c'est quelque chose de différent que simplement la collecte de data and information. Et j'aurais aimé avoir votre opinion sur le lien que vous voyez entre ces deux choses. Donc, qui voudra répondre? Ça, c'est une première question. Ok? C'est pas pareil, quoi. Je crois que la recherche, c'est pas simplement de la collecte de données et d'informations, même si la collecte de données est importante pour l'action, etc. Mais j'aurais aimé avoir une réflexion peut-être un peu plus poussée sur la recherche en elle-même. Quels sont les thèmes de recherche qu'il était important de promouvoir aujourd'hui en Afrique et pas simplement limiter ça à de la collecte de données. Première question. La deuxième question, c'est que je crois que l'expérience d'Abil Gou, qui est très, très intéressante, c'est-à-dire qu'on voit comment une institution, une petite institution privée, enfin une ONG, sans but lucratif, parvient à combiner recherche et action, et que les deux s'alimentent réciproquement. Et j'aurais aimé poser aux universitaires qui sont à la table la question de savoir si ce modèle est un modèle, donc de lier très intimement la recherche et l'action dans ces institutions de recherche, est un modèle qui peut être repris à son compte par les universités en Afrique. Et bon, prenons l'exemple simplement de l'université dans laquelle travaille Dan. C'est-à-dire, est-ce qu'il peut y avoir ce lien entre recherche et action dans l'université aujourd'hui en Afrique, tel que les universités fonctionnent? Voilà mes deux questions.
Thank you. Edgar Peterser from the African Centre for Cities at the University of Cape Town. Thank you for the panelists for their contributions. So I want to make just 2 points. One is to bring to the attention of the audience that there are initiatives underway, including the African Urban Research Initiative that is mentioned on the screen, that brings together 16 African urban research centers in 14 different countries. And it will be expanding its membership as well. And this initiative specifically is trying to experiment with what it means to pursue academic rigor, but also occupy this intermediary space between the university and the world of public policy. And this is incredibly difficult. It's impossible to raise funding for it from the traditional academic resources, but also governments within countries don't necessarily see the value add of this. And if they do, they expect a consultancy service as opposed to an independent research function, which of course is the role of universities. The second point to make is that there are also the African Association of Planning Schools, which represents 55 planning schools in Anglophone, Francophone, and Lusophone Africa. And there the work has been over the last 6-7 years to specifically rethink the nature of planning and planning curriculum and teaching, so that we can in fact prepare a next generation of practitioners that is able to work with the complexity of informality and in a context of larger complex change. The last point that I just want to make as a comment is again to encourage our partners in government and other sectors to begin to reflect on how we can rethink the national government allocations for research and development. This is still totally dominated by the natural sciences, and it is completely dominated by an orientation for very instrumental economic benefit if it's not about the natural sciences. There's almost no resources that come from the national fiscus through the R&D system for urban research. And I think that we really need to see how we can ensure that some of that national funding gets allocated for the right priorities, and that requires strategy, and it requires city governments to help the universities and other role players to begin to reframe what does research and development mean against the backdrop of the challenges that we've heard about the last 2 days. Thank you.
Merci. Désolé de reprendre la parole. J'essaye de me rattraper. Je suis arrivé en retard ce matin. Kébir Alaoui du PNUD, représentant du PNUD en Tunisie. Encore une fois, merci aux présentateurs et à la qualité de la synthèse du facilitateur. Je voudrais juste revenir sur la problématique du mot recherche et développement en Afrique. Et j'ai vu les chiffres qu'on est sur les 1%, ou moins de 1% en fait des pays qui investissent. Je pense que nous avons l'exemple en fait du secteur privé qui a su en fait mettre recherche et développement au cœur de son métier et de son évolution, parce qu'on a su au niveau du secteur privé la valeur ajoutée de la recherche pour qu'on puisse se développer, innover et puis être toujours à la pointe de la recherche. Évidemment, quand on parle de la gestion de la ville ou de l'urbanisme ou de l'urbanisation, il est difficile de faire bouger des maires ou des gouvernements à mettre le budget qu'il faut pour investir. Et c'est là cette réflexion, comment est-ce qu'on pourrait réellement donner à la recherche-développement son importance, sachant que l'urbanisme et la gestion de la ville est un gros business. Quand on voit les fonds et les valeurs qui se font et la génération des richesses qui sortent de la ville, donc quel serait le modèle? Comment est-ce qu'on pourrait pousser les aménageurs, le privé et l'État et les chercheurs à s'assurer et à pousser à ce que l'investissement dans la recherche puisse avancer. Je pense que les présentations étaient très éloquentes en mettant en avant l'importance de l'évidence. Quand on s'approche de l'évidence et quand on s'approche de l'action avec la démarche de proximité du Burkina Faso qui nous a montré qu'on ne peut pas juste chercher sans impliquer ceux qui sont les maîtres d'ouvrage de la ville et de l'urbanisation. Je pense que ces trois composantes permettraient peut-être de donner la valeur qu'il faudrait à la recherche et de pousser les décideurs à faire de la recherche une démarche aussi centrale dans la gestion de la ville. Merci.
Thank you very much. Thank you. My panelists, do you want to take a shot at these issues, please?
All right, I think we need the rest of the day to answer those questions. Serge raised the issue of the distinction between research and data and information. I think it's a great challenge for academics to find time to feed evidence to policymakers, which is exactly what they want, and also to have time to think about what sort of evidence they're giving them. Because evidence without proper thinking is a waste of time. So somebody's got to do the thinking. We do our best to find the time to do it, but the way that it works in Europe is you have academic professors who do all the thinking when they're not administering, and then you have a few people like me who are also research practitioners, but we don't have time to nose our way up the university ladder, so we're kind of sidelined. I think we're the best solution, but that's not the way it works. We are institutionally constrained, so we have to try and do everything as best we can, and we have to do it in the urban context, which is increasingly important and challenging. I just wanted to respond to the question whether universities could do more in terms of action research, following the model of the NGOs. Again, there are institutional constraints about funding, where it comes from, who you're accountable to, and this is an issue that is a bit easier sometimes with NGOs, although they all have funding problems. They're not so accountable as universities. But universities are very well placed to work with local communities. I know a number of examples. It helps if it's to do with the project and there's some funding related to it. So again, we always come back to the funding issue. But I think that's important. I think the participatory research is an extremely important addition to the area of research resources that we can offer. Dan, do you want to add anything more?
All right, thank you very much. Just a couple of points to add to the discussion. First of all, I would just want to comment on the fact that increasingly universities are changing. And I think that's where we have some hope that we'll be able eventually to use research to change the way things are done. If I look back at my own university, for instance, it used to be a crime, sort of, to be known to have gone out to do a piece of assignment for an NGO or for an international organization or that sort of thing. This wasn't encouraged, but I think that the field is changing. Now there's a lot of collaboration and there is a lot of encouragement by universities for staff not only to remain in the Eiffel Tower, but to also go out. So I think this climate that is changing offers opportunities for universities to do things that are beyond the formal commission that is given to universities. And we see universities entering into partnerships with the business sector to undertake research, to undertake development. And I think that it's a good development which we should encourage. Another example from my university is we as the Department of Planning, for example, were charged with developing a university land use plan. The university hadn't had one for a very long time. And in the past years, we have seen a number of private sector people coming and knocking on the doors of the university and saying, look, we are ready to support you to do A, B, and C, including the building of hostels, research facilities, etc., etc. And if only you will partner with us. So I think it's a matter of looking at the terms at which we can cooperate and collaborate, and then we can do this quite effectively. Another point which I want to comment on is what my good friend Edgar already said, and it has to relate to the way we train people who would intervene in the urban agenda. And for a very long time, close to about 10 years now, the Association of African Planning Schools have been doing a lot in this sector, trying to rethink how we can train people who understand the context in which they work, train people who will be able to intervene in cities, knowing the character of the cities that we are dealing with, and generally rethinking the whole curriculum of planning that we teach in our universities. I think this is what would allow us the opportunity to be able to interact with the private sector and enter into research that will be responsive to the needs of cities and city managers. Lastly, I would just want to emphasize that there is a need for a dedicated budget for research. And as I mentioned in my presentation, many African countries do not have any budget for research at all. And I think that it's something that should be high on the agenda. I think sometimes the research institutions and also the universities have themselves to blame. Until recently, we, as a university, we are already 60 years old, didn't have a dedicated office for research and grants, for example. So I think that we should continue to flag this as a very important point on the agenda. We should continue to lobby governments to be able to dedicate sufficient research money, and we should be able to demonstrate how, or the value addition of our research to politicians, so that if we did that, we will be able to then have access to resources that will allow us also to continue with the urban agenda. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup. Je vais intervenir sur un seul point. Je pense que les autres ont donné beaucoup des éléments sur les autres points. En fait, c'est la question de comment faire de la valeur ajoutée à la recherche. Je pense que actuellement le problème c'est que au niveau de la recherche, il faut qu'on travaille à renforcer la communication et la concertation. Déjà même les travaux de recherche qui existent, la plupart du temps, les politiques et même les communautés n'ont pas conscience même de l'existence de ces travaux. Et c'est dans un langage qui n'est même pas accessible à tout le monde. Il faut travailler à vulgariser même ce qui existe, renforcer la concertation entre les acteurs, et je pense que ça donnera beaucoup plus de valeur ajoutée à la recherche. Je vous remercie.
Thank you very much. Unfortunately, time does not allow us to do a lot more, but I think that there is quite a bit of food for thought that has emerged from this section. In the discussion, one thing that came out for me was the issue of the research agenda. What are the research themes, given the multidimensional and multi-sectoral nature of the urban phenomenon? The second thing that emerged for me was the issue of workable models. We heard about the African Urban Research Centers, the Association of Planning Schools. Somebody this morning talked about Codestria and others. Are there workable models? Are there ways in which various entities could work together in this regard to be able to move that forward? Then the strategy for reframing to enhance our advocacy, that has also come up. Again, the idea of using the, of trying to make urban research attractive, looking at it from the perspective of it being an investment. And the question that came up for me was, what are the roles for mayors, private sector, then even the associations of planners that there are? Finally, something has come up in the discussion, I got a piece of paper sent to me from somebody who wanted to make a submission. I'll just read those. Funding as a major impediment to research due to increasing activities associated with the research cycle. Could we know clearly what the critical areas are that need to be funded more? Second question, are there any human elements or influences that directly or indirectly add to the fiscal cost? If so, what measures are needed to curb that? Then the third, how do we make research findings and recommendations available for policy consideration? I believe that is where our colleague, Monsieur Dablegou, ended. The value addition to research and strengthening communication and dissemination. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for your cooperation. I'm really sorry I have to bring this to an end and to wish you bon appetit and continue the discussion over lunch. Thank you very much.